Mr. Narman, I'm tired and you're watching SDTV. Obviously, the fossil fuel was the base fuel for all of this development behind the industrial development of 17th, 18th, 19th, and now the 20th century is now. It has caused major damage to the environment, which was very fragile. And the global warming is a sort of a curse of industrialization. Now the world is adamant to change it by introducing renewables and fuels, basically to produce energy through mechanisms which is not detrimental to the stability of the environment. That is the reason that the carbon credits were granted by the first world through the United Nations and through other mechanisms, the global framework. The carbon markets give concession to the industrial production which arrest carbon, which shows that they are doing efficiently, and they could have produced more carbon by through cheap manufacturing, but they are introducing new mechanisms and technology to arrest carbon. So this carbon has been attached with a financial system to give credits, and that was a market. Now the US is unilaterally seems they have not said that we are withdrawing from it, but the new tariff structure and the very familiar term by the Donald Trump drill baby drill says that they're still adamant to the fossil fuel as a base fuel. So what is the future of this carbon market? Should the developing world now switch, or they can, because already there is a debate that there should be less mitigation and more adaptation, and that should be the way forward. We have today with us an expert on that, Mr. Asad Mahmood, who is consulting in this same area and has the relevant expertise. Asad sir, very warm welcome. Please say something on that, and then we'll rumble on further on this.
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum everyone. I think this is the key word or buzzword you can say. Everyone is looking into the changing dynamics. World has changed in last 2 weeks or so in terms of the global trade and in terms of what is happening in towards like fuel transition and so many other things. Even not only in Pakistan, in other countries. So everybody is setting and balancing their own equations, what track they have to take in order to be competitive in the world, and whether to remain on the track of cleanliness, or also they need to look into diversifying their base fuels in order to just secure their productions and market share and remain competitive. So this is something like a very interesting situation the world is going through these days.
If you go to China, I mean, it's quite an experience to travel on a very busy highway, 5-lane highways, in a very quiet atmosphere. And you look around and see there are a lot of cars moving bumper to bumper traffic over there, but they're quiet because bulk of them is electric vehicles. Their taxis are, and very strangely, I've seen many taxis with the same name, Beijing, and they are electric vehicles, EVs. So the fossil fuel is the fuel of the past, and it seems that the marriage between internal combustion engine and the hydrocarbon is on the rocks. It's falling apart. Do you think that the United States under the Trump administration can unilaterally resist the wheel of time?
Well, I think it's a connected world, and in terms of the technology transition, you can say it is going very fast, and every day new interventions are coming in, and there has been a silent revolution in terms of what you just mentioned about, like China. They just kept doing their work, and they just kept developing their technologies, not only to cater their own needs and developing certain set of expertise, and now and then gradually increasing their outreach through their technology, through their resources, by getting rid of also the critical minerals which are attributed towards these EVs as well, like battery storage systems and other things. But what they have done so far is like they played very well in terms of taking the lead in EV transition, and and especially the markets lying nearby. That is something like where they are looking into future expansion and growth as well. But in terms of like US taking like stance or reverse gear on fuel transition, or going towards, like as just mentioned, like drilling or going towards hydrocarbon fuels, ultimately like everything just focuses on the energy security of every country at the end of the day. We or energy security is somehow linked with your economic security perspectives, petrodollar relation, as we were just discussing a while ago. But the narratives have changed in this timeline, very short span of time. And one pertinent thing is like whatsoever the new market elements are coming in for the developing countries, to set their ambitions for carbon emissions, and these new markets for carbon markets and other things are coming up very swiftly. This is also sort of like being done in a haste, I can say, because like all this temperature raise where we are right now, it doesn't happen in a short span of time, and it is going to take some time to just slow down the pace of this like ever increasing temperatures. I hope that we see those days reversing the isotropic processes, like technically or factually scientific, like not quite possible, but anyhow, like those countries, the developed countries, now they through the NDCs, they have like bounded the countries to limit their carbon emissions. But somehow these carbon emissions could also, we can say that these carbon emissions, or you can say the GHG emissions, are something like where they're also like hampering the full potential to the extent the developing countries can propagate and can secure long-term economic benefits. So this is something like it doesn't happen suddenly. Like we have just started hearing like these carbon markets. There has been a change of terminologies like few years back, or like you started off with EU ETS and emission trading systems, which are quite prevalent and followed in EU countries, like just to cater to their needs. Like they, you can see like there are various elements which through forceful like regulations or cap and trade systems, you have introduced certain tools which proved to be successful. But the thing which is successful in other country, could it be successful in developed countries? Are they going to give the results in the developing countries? That is something where we need to focus
Okay,
on.
carbon markets could touch $1 trillion mark. That is the phrase we have been listening quite recently. Do you think that still after this tariff war and all that, still that figure is relevant?
Well, when we talk about like, let us
Or what is the future of carbon markets?
yeah. So let us dissect like the terminology itself. Like market, whenever you go to market, you have there are various stakeholders which successfully run the market, the ecosystem. You need to focus on like there are buyers, there are sellers. There needs to be a demand in the market, so that you just demand in the market of buying the carbon credits, and then these all things settles the rate. Overflowing of the market also leads to deterioration of the market rates, which is basically the ultimate objective of the carbon markets, to incentivize like or de-risking certain elements, or to raise financing from conventional sources of conventional banking even, so that like you can penetrate the new technologies, the clean technologies into the market. But the point is like in terms of countries like Pakistan, for example, where the carbon guidelines have just being were launched in the last COP, and being promulgated, and at the end of the day, like we need to learn from our past experiences. What happened with our CDM projects? Were we able to capture that much benefit which other countries?
Yeah, industry can come up with a very lucrative and very good, sizable investment only to gain from the carbon markets, that they will invest in technology transition, and the investment would be recovered back to the carbon credits. Do you think still that incentive is valid after this Trump administration policy, that the industry would still look forward to invest in in improvement of technology, that the investment they look forward to recover from the carbon credits?
Well, generally, like the perspective was that the carbon market is going to crash, but it was not the case, which was seen in the markets across different countries, and like there have been buying and selling going around. Even the companies in the US, they are looking into buying carbon credits, just like Microsoft, went for CDR, largest one of the largest like carbon credit like procurement has been done. So the thing is like those countries which are like which have been doing it, they are doing it. And the thing is like the standards and the quality of the carbon credits that are being questioned, and that's why like we have integrity. I see VCM concept or voluntary carbon markets, where they are now focusing on like that every carbon credits, they have to focus on the core carbon principles, where you need to like focus on certain things, governance aspects, sustainable
The
development
market
aspects.
framework has been established. What is like stock exchange? The market framework has been established, and there is a regulatory body for that.
Not a regulatory body, not as such, in terms of like there is another point, as you have just raised, very important question, that every country might have their own local sort of carbon markets, and then how they are linked with international carbon rates as well. So it all depends, like what is your ultimate objective in your country, like you, whether you are looking
Yeah, I'm,
towards.
I'm asking from
Yeah,
a very from very direct
yeah,
vantage point.
yeah,
For example, in Pakistan, we have seen
yeah,
that the abuse of dominance has been what had been the norm.
yeah,
Not only the cartelization, the companies would buy stocks, and then they would sell stocks, and in the panic, the whole of the market would sell, and they would buy again.
yeah,
They could abuse the market through their size. Is there market mechanism, as you have mentioned the Microsoft?
yeah,
They could easily do that.
yeah.
So, is there any assurity that Nishat Textile or Kohinoor Textile, or I mean the small players, small fries in the whole, should feel safe to invest?
Well, this all depends, like however, like and the national entity, designated entity for it, like Ministry of Climate Change or the Pakistan Climate Change Authority, is going to look into like unfold this like sort of full market as per the guidelines which have been like published. But at the end of the day, like definitely there is a fixed once you look into those guidelines, there are certain numbers which we have to look into, like conditional and unconditional like targets for NDCs, and then similarly out of those, how much is available there to be traded in the market, what is that KT 260 million tons of CO2 equivalent, which is looking which is being looked into just to start off for meeting your conditional targets through carbon markets, and that is something where you need a full ecosystem. So far there is no like sort of national level exchange or ecosystem.
Last question.
Yeah.
Do you think? I think it would be. I mean, small nations like Pakistan cannot give insurance cover to those who are going to invest in the market. The global framework need to be there, which should be developed by the big players like US and other. Do you think that the small nations who are being asked by this mechanism like CBAM and all to come up with all to do the mitigation should raise their voice for an international sort of a coverage framework, an agreement between global that should protect their interest, their investment, especially in the area?
Yeah, I think like we need to follow and look into very closely what is being deliberated at the WTO level and what our other countries are looking into, because first of all, you also need to look, just like for instance, India, they have just came up with their carbon credit trading systems and markets, and what they have enlisted certain areas which they would be focusing on offsetting and going towards compliance market even. So once you look into offsetting is something which doesn't look towards like in the offsetting thing, which is something going against the full spirit in context of like whether you are going to decarbonize or not. So decarbonization takes you to the mitigation aspect, where technologies play a very important role. So the developing countries like Pakistan, under the provisions of the Paris Agreement, its Article 9, 10, and 11, we think that in Pakistan, the technology transfer is something, a missing factor, which the developed countries have to be providing. So, as you just mentioned, if there is any industry in Pakistan, without naming any company, that they are going to get the carbon credits, and they are going to like stock it and sell and like manipulate the market. So, prior to that, that is something like once we look into the quality of the carbon credits. Your emission reductions could not be called as carbon credits until and unless like they are validated or verified by international bodies, or the people having certain set of expertise. You have like lead validators, verifiers, ISO 14067, certified people, professionals, and certifying bodies also have to play their role. So this enhances the transparency of the carbon market ecosystem as well. So this is something like we need to look into that. There should be a project developer, there should be a project implementer, there should be a buyer, there should be an exchange. The biggest problem in Pakistan is we don't have there are many missing puzzles so far in the Pakistani market, and we need to focus.
There should be a separate stock exchange for that.
Exchanges, like we need to build upon the best practices, how this gradually starts in other countries. Like which sectors you want to focus upon. You need to focus on, if you want to focus on compliance market and the cap and trade system, then you need to have a take a different course of action. Right. But again, like there should be a market appetite, and this CBAM coming in parallel, as you say, we were just discussing, many things are coming in parallel. So the market is also a bit confused whether to focus on CBAM, whether to focus on carbon markets. And then like this is a myth, like also the myth like is like you develop a carbon mitigation project, and then you're going to get your carbon credits. So this is again like it's a full procedure. You need to you need to have certain set of expertise to develop project design documents, and then the methodologies which are adopted by different standards for different sectors have to be like looked into, and that ensures the refinement of the quality of the standards, and it sets its rates in the market. Because without good quality carbon credits and approved methodologies, refined methodologies, you are not going to get good rates from the market as well.
Thank you very much for that. So the bottom line is that yes, there's a scope for the carbon market, and ultimately this is the direction towards the world has to go today, after a decade, or whenever, because hydrocarbon is giving way to the renewables. But global framework must be there, and the small nations like Pakistan, who are being asked to do mitigation through different mechanisms like CBAM and other things, should come up with a joint voice to have this international negotiated system for their protection and ensuring the future of investment that their industry is going to do in the sector. With this, we have come to the end of the program. Bye for now.